Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, coming live from Fiber Heart, children of God, and that's you, and that's you, and that's me, and that's me. Before I get started, this station is Fire Up Your Heart for Truth. I've had several different names. I started 7 or 8 years ago. I don't always look at the camera right. That upsets me too. And sometimes I get fidgety. It's always been a problem, even back into childhood. So you can call it nervous, or some days are just worse than others. I guess we could call it nervous tics, but I've always had a problem. Even as a child, if I would get stressed or overwhelmed, I tend to rub my face and get very, I was in trouble a lot for that. There was already very, very evident signs that I was not networking properly in the neurological. There was plenty of signs and indications given by teachers, even skating teachers. My attention span, daydreaming, and I also had, then I would get nervous easily. I was in an actually very demanding sport in the sense that you were kind of you were the spotlight. You might have had a partner sometimes, but it was a solo sport, and it was just too much for too long. And it literally did wreak havoc on my nervous system. I don't run excessively competitive. I like to have fun. I like to win a game. Everyone does. Who doesn't want to win a game? But the level that I was seeing just in this small sport by even third or fourth grade as a child, what I had dealt with, and psychological abuse and technically warfare with one of my ex-coaches, it actually caused me a lot of pain, and I wanted to exit the sport. I had seen girls by the age of 5th grade do some of the most horrible mind games and other things on one another. It wasn't all of the kids in the sports, in this sport. The ones that really weren't that vindictive, I don't think we really wanted to be there. It was just something our parents liked, and maybe some of us we were able to learn what we needed to learn. Maybe we also had a natural ability with skating, but those of us that were kind of there, just kind of out of being an obedient daughter or son, I think we were all just waiting for when we could get out. It doesn't mean we didn't enjoy ourselves and had very many enjoyable moments. I loved pair skating way over solo. I technically peaked by 3rd or 4th grade. I just simply didn't want much to do with the sport anymore. And because of also what I discussed is, I think it's good to be competitive in the courtroom, in the court. I call it the court. That say the skating rink or the ice rink. That's how I've always had myself programmed. Is there's a time and a place to be extra competitive, but I think out and about, as we're trying to navigate our lives, a little less competitive would be best. Because I don't know if you've noticed where we are as a whole. And I am concerned that I've got too much material here. I'm not going to be able to get it done in a timely manner like I would hope. And maybe we could just take off some of the winter clothes. It is a little more chilly again. I don't see how the daffodils are going to make it through, but they did decide to peek out. And I don't know if I post any of those videos. Maybe if I can wrap up some of this, or maybe I need to decide to keep this a little shorter. And I only did a small amount of prep, and then I was finding that it was getting more deeply involved. So the first thing I wanted to do is I used to list groups that I truly supported. This time I tried to sit on it longer before I spout off stations. But I have 3 or 4 in the UK or Australia area. Forgive me if I'm wrong about Evangeline. It's Evangeline. I don't know what level of targeting she is at. She only does videos once or twice a month, and I hadn't seen her for a month. And honestly, when I type it in YouTube, I believe she is shadow banned, and I don't believe she should be. Uh, Jesus, in the Jesus community, we are actually very lacking, I believe, in solid, um, inspired messages from Christ, without it getting like way over into the. There seems to be much more rapture in that department. I am more drawn towards just real people. Maybe they don't get the camera right that day or whatever. I've I've explored, and I have several very polished groups I go to that are very professional. But honestly, in the sense of connecting with fellow believers, I really prefer those friends of mine who maybe we don't know how to do the camera right, but that's simply not why we're here. We're here because we get inspired and we see things uh, with the Lord in a way. I mean, this is just my perspective. But see, here we are already going off on different tangents. And then I have to do that because I can't see very well. And lately, my eyes have been blurring up a bit more. I hope that everything cooperates today. I noticed it yesterday before church. We go to an online church, and there in Kalispell, Montana, it's Liberty Fellowship, and that will always trip me up because that was one of our stops in 2009, was near Kalispell. We were in the Cut Bank, near the Cut Bank area, and even over into, I don't want to start messing up. I'll forget the names. It's been so long. That's a long time ago. And I think they were getting established there around that time, and I don't know, probably we were deceived, but we were also, I think we had to kind of stay on the move at that time. One of the main predators in the family line was making it into like a national emergency. She was actually used to try to force my young son at the time to be forced into a supervised visit through the government. He had established with the courts and whatnot that absolutely no more, he was not going to see this man even once a year against his will. Now, later they may have made up. That's none of my concern now. My job when he was a child was to do the best I could to navigate where he felt safe and where he didn't feel safe. And unfortunately, the places that sometimes he felt safe were full of vipers, and then he would find out later that it was a trick. But I believe that my son is a very wise man, and I believe wherever he is on his walk with Christ, he will get back there one day. Because there was one thing that I did do, and that was before I gave birth, during my pregnancy, and after, regardless of how dark and ugly it was around us, because it was. And God was not letting us fully escape it. I handed my son to the Lord every day, day in and day out. I asked him to help me guide him in the way that I was capable of guiding him and how I was supposed to guide him, and to always remember that his life was not my life, that my son's life was Jesus's. He was Jesus's child. I was gifted with the opportunity to oversee him and love him, nurture him, and hopefully make him feel safe in the years that were necessary for that. And that was really how I went about my parenting. I was not going to be, I could not be both. That's the sad part. You cannot be a single mother and a father too. Regardless of how great you did, there is going to be gaping holes for what a man needs, which is a good man in their life, to show them right from wrong. Yes, a woman can do that to her, the best of her ability. But if you're a wise woman, you will know there's no way on this ungodly earth, but it is God's kingdom. We're going to try to stay focused on that today. Is that I'm still unlearning. I'm literally still unlearning. Maybe it should have been a little quicker. I'm still unlearning stuff from Rapture. I'm shocked at how it trickled out in so many scriptures, and I find myself still. And even though I've watched Pastor Baldwin from Kalispell, Montana, Liberty Fellowship, back to the beginning here, is that's where we go. We go there at 4:30 p.m. on Sunday nights. Thankfully, my husband's schedule changed, so we were able to go together. Prior, we had to meet back up together on Monday if we wanted to watch church together. But then Sarah, Pastor's wife, Pastor's daughter, started reading letters when Pastor became quite ill. He had a serious injury last summer, and to his vocal cords. And Sarah and her husband filled the gap, and Sarah started reading letters, or even just sharing a phone call from believers from all over the world, and they have now kept that tradition. Unfortunately, I don't know if YouTube cuts that out, or other platforms may or may not, but you have to go to church. You have to be present around 2:30, the Mountain Time area, and then obviously in Michigan it would be 4:30. And there are what's called cell groups or home groups, or I got that wrong. It's like you can create your own church at home, or if you have a place to meet, maybe even at your own church, and you can tune in, and then you'll be a part of an international network of people that are creating these small groups, because a lot of us, depending on when we started, we're having a difficult time finding churches that were still teaching truth. And I honestly had some ministers, and they're good people. We had a lot of help from a couple churches. I don't have any qualm, or there was some bizarre interactions too. And but the thing is that a lot of them were already sold out with the federal funding, even smaller churches, and they would get a letter and it would tell them what they could and could not say. And I had ministers point blank tell me, well, it's just not something people want to hear. So we try to make it comfortable for everyone. And that was a real red flag for me and my husband. And I was sad because I wasn't showing my son that there was one church left that we could find that was following truth. And plus he had a lot of extra chirping going on from extended family. So, but, and there's no way that he would feel connected if we were having to leave, because truth was so lost and not found. And it was starting to be quite heartbreaking, quite frankly. Even smaller churches didn't even hide it. Like if you could tithe well, we really always tried to tithe no matter where we were economically. People treat it different that can tithe better, or they do this better, or what. And we just didn't like it, and it was a very difficult thing. Probably more so for me. I have more of the social butterfly side, but I also want to go back home and be with the Lord in a more quiet space. And but I always like to go hang out. But then I'm more than happy to go back in a smaller, energetic space, so to speak. So I guess that's our preamble. Well, what are we going to do today? So I was going to list those groups, but let's just save that for another time. And so UK, it's American, and these are smaller groups. And, well, some are actually exploding, praise the Lord. And it's been really amazing to watch. So, I did have a message. So, is this. First, we're going to be looking at two words, interfered and meddling. Meddling first and then interfered. But the main objective of this study, regardless of how many times I float off, is who is our master. And the Lord was very clear about this. I can't give you a count. We got the old dictionary out. So we're going to be looking up interfere and meddling. Maybe my eyes can blur up in that time. And I broke my reading glasses, and they're too comical. They're horrible on me. And we got enough distractions just with this. So we have one master. If you truly love the Lord, you have one master in heaven. The government's not your master. Your minister's not your master. The denomination you're from is not the master. The Pope is not your master. The rabbi is not your master. And they're certainly not your father. We have one Father in heaven. He's our master. And he's also, if you accept Jesus Christ, you receive the Holy Spirit, you ask for the Holy Spirit, he will indwell in you, and you will have forever communion with him while you are on this earth. Unless you decide to walk away. Unless you decide to go about it in the fashion that you want to go about, and you don't want to go about it how God wants you to go about. I'm not sure how that pans out. I know I tried a few different exit routes, and I got in a lot of trouble. So I don't know. I hear different stuff. some people apparently can drift away from their walk. Others can maybe come up with another method. And I didn't find that that was what was going on with me and Jesus. So, be it I might be wrong on my interpretation of my own relationship with Jesus, but it seemed like he had a pretty focalized vision while I was distracted on still I'm gonna run away. So that alone would have kept me from fully accepting what was going on, because I kind of already knew that, God forbid, if I tried to share even with what I thought was the one safest person I had left in my life, they were nodding their head just like, you got to give me a break. You got to be out of your mind. So obviously then those doors were shut down, and I'm sure that those chirp-a-werps went off a chirp and a lurpin'. I mean, you guys, the list here is so large because God had me placed in these places to see corruption at a level that, and abuse of vulnerables. And those groups have spent a long, long time on me. And this is not a braggart. It actually pains me, quite frankly. Because no one ever consulted with me. It's all like a convoluted. Oh, I'm sure plenty of people saw me react, but trust me, someone else in my condition and what has gone on with meddling, interference, and other levels, for some reason, those of us coming from really toxic networks where families are set up more like a cult. You serve the parents, you do as the parents say, even as if they're looped and looned out and so disgustingly malignant. If you cross them, trust me, they've got an arsenal in their back pocket. I watched the woman that raised me over 3 times when I was able to try to cut the cord, and it was so difficult because there was so much witchcraft involved with her, is that I watched her actually seek out churches that had power and actually go in there and meddle on me. One was a big mega church, a Church of God. There's been 2 others that I think it was the one for sure. She tried some Weasley-ness with some other groups, counselors. I think it was mainly the Church of God one. Why am I feeling like there was definitely another one or 2? She was really good on the phone. Let's just put it that way. Really good. And really good writing checks for where she could find the most power. And one was the Church of God. And you talk about hypocrisy and disturbing levels of corruption and fraud, not only financially, but the misuse of power and the hierarchy in the church, and just sins galore going on in the corridors. I mean, they made this place so big that you go in certain regions of it, you kind of feel, it feels weird. It doesn't feel like a church that will be used for the end of times where people need to take refuge. It kind of just feels like, what's going on? Like, why did they need this much space? Who are they placing in these areas? And my son didn't like the daycare. And the minute he would say something, I knew, because I had to help him early on navigate. That's so sad. So, but that's how sick this town is. And there are a lot of people with money. I'm talking money and power. And it also ties in with Joe Bellino in the Senate, or up there. I don't know what he's doing, because he oversees Lenawee, Monroe, and Smalls. And I have contacted him with proof, videos more than once. And actually our death threats and stuff actually escalated. Not only on us, but my son. And the thing is that was one of my prayers, that the Lord would kind of spare my son from it, or that if there was a parting of ways, that he could continue his life and flourish and not be as targeted as me. But I don't know, because we haven't spoken over 4 years. So I know he started acting like the ones I came from, so I was done. So, like, he had the police in his pocket. Yeah. If someone starts doing that, run. Especially nowadays. If you have any sense at all about you, you're going to be observing or looking up how your police department's doing in your local area. And if you find yourself, you're more scared of the police or even calling for help than you are just kind of dealing with stuff on your own in your best abilities, that should be an extremely concerning feeling. Okay. So who is our master? And who has interfered in your walk prior to getting to Jesus or during your walk? And who is your biggest interferences? And when we talk about interfere, we can say, oh, that's just a light tap. But first we're going to say, Lord, please be with Heather on this, because so far she's done 20 minutes if we're not really sure. And she's just running around and probably already didn't loop something up. So we're going to help Heather stay on track today, Lord. Today is a Monday. Yes. And don't ask me what number of the day right now. I was supposed to write that down. So there are literally, if it's not already in the process or is finished, they're banning any public display of Christianity in the UK. This is in London. Now, this has been being chipped away for a while. Well, that's not America. No, it's not America, but if you can listen to some of the rhetoric that's been going on the last few months, it's actually causing a lot of people that were more than happy to endorse and fully just scream out, let's try this other group. We got to get out of this one group in the political arena. But now I'm back to this. I can name about 10, and maybe that number would change, of 10 people that are younger than me that would do a far better job running this country than what we've got going on again. So all they've done is literally amped up the chaos of the devil, confusion, and now we're just taking those wounds that were already exposed and vulnerable, and we're going to be at a gangrene level by June in America as a nation. The church, one of my main blames, not only with the government, but top two, the two-tier. I'm going to call it the two-tier. And you know what? Sometimes I get sarcastic. Sometimes I get snotty. Whatever you want to label it, that's your problem. Because guess what? All you've done is sat around your whole life worried about who's saying what or who's doing what and meddling over here. And you've literally helped bring hell quicker. And that is something that I am going to keep reiterating. This is God's kingdom. This gets confusing for me even still. Like I said, I'm trying to unwind. And that's why it's very important when I bring up Liberty Fellowship, Pastor Chuck Baldwin, and you look him up and you look up his readings, because this man ran for president and you think that they don't even mention him in a peep. I've actually tried to contact some of my politicians and mention him, and they act like he's already been removed from the planet. And then when we started following the church, it seemed like we got accelerated to be removed off the planet. No, we're not blaming. We're not blaming. I just can't do the speech. I'm going to lose a word now. Oh, no, Lord, come on. Well, we got interchange. Where's interfere? We're going to just go to interfere because I didn't care for the meddling definition. It wasn't intense enough. What did I turn the page on myself? Intercept. No, it was right in my face. So that's what happens when you're 50. I can't do the one glass, and we're not doing the others. Interfere. Interfere. Verb. To be a hindrance or obstacle. Impede. To impede illegally. The catching of a pass. That's in sports. To strike one hoof against the opposite hoof or leg while moving. That was in regards to a horse. Physics. To produce interference with another wave. Electronics. to inhibit or prevent clear reception or broadcast signals. French, to strike each other. Latin, interfere, meddle, tamper. These verbs are compared in the sense of concerning oneself in the affairs of others, persons. Other persons, interfere, and meddle are sometimes interchangeable. Meddle. Can you tell this is a very upsetting topic for me? Do you know why? Because this is how I felt since I was little. Bunch of people. It's all over me. Okay? So I have a real disdain for meddlers. I don't mean as a... Yeah, I do. I have a disdain for meddlers because you're working from an evil force if you meddle. I don't care. You can say it's something else. No, it's evil. Meddle is the stronger in implying unwanted, unwarranted, or unnecessary intrusion. It is somewhat weaker than interfere in implying action that seriously hampers, hinders, or frustrates. Tamper refers to intervention in the form of making unauthorized alterations or changes, especially ones that corrupt. Interference. Now look, we could just do this for 30 minutes because we're almost there. And we could keep going on and how destructive interference. Did you catch the one where it said radio or technology? Do you ever like to listen to old radio? Sometimes I do. But there's radio blackouts, and then you'll be listening, and then it'll just kind of start going. Or then you get this other station, you start hearing, oh, la, la. And then you got the preacher on the other side going, and the Lord, and then you, oh, la, la. And then maybe in the other background you hear like a sports broadcast. How annoying is that? Do you get annoyed? I get annoyed. Well, we don't listen to the radio like you. Well, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, that's one instance. How about, are you annoyed that we were forced into this technology? Some of it was free, some of it wasn't. We were forced into it. Well, we weren't, like, fighting too hard, but there was plenty that did. But most of them have probably been removed from the planet for discussing the dangers of where we are now. And you there have been long gone and destroyed and maybe murdered. Or became so ill with cancer from being radiated to death that they are no longer here with us. But you know what they did? They planted the seeds. And I need to make this very clear. And this has to do with who is our master. And I hope this all goes well, because so far I'm not feeling very confident of that. So right now we're going to look at... Well, that wasn't right either. Okay, so that's James. I was going to list these so you can just... Maybe we better do that before I get too far off. These are in regards to the Lord's message about who is our master. Cannot serve two masters. So right there, that's extremely important. Matthew 10:24, Matthew 6:24, Matthew 23:8. Looks like Matthew 23:8 connects to Luke 6:37. This comes from James 3:1. So we're going to go to James 3:1. And what I'm saying is that we all have our job in the kingdom. Those that planted the church, well, that was forever ago. They're long gone. They planted it, correct? And then the ones that took that out and they kept networking and they kept making it bigger. However, man did tamper with that and they interfered with the church heavily. And so we have thousands and thousands of years of this interference because others wanted to be master over Jesus. So they created these large and broad and grand temples and large synagogues to say, I am the closest to God, not you. Well, there you are. You're serving two masters right out the gate. Leave the church and go find a real Jesus. So there we have Colossians 3:2, Colossians 4:1, James 3:1, 1 Peter 2:18. So we have James 3:1. My brethren, be not many masters, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. For in many things we offend all. If any man offend not in word, the same is a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. We can't get into that right now. It's going to be too much for me to explain, and we could end up at the horse track racing horses or something for the example, and I don't even know. Matt 23:18, Luke 6:37. Remember I said it connected up? Well, I mean, on my paper here. So we go to Matthew 23:8 and Luke 6:37, and hopefully we can at least just execute that. Although there was some really other important ones. Let not many of you be teachers, stricter judgment. It's important. Teachers, stricter judgment. My brethren, be not many masters or teachers, knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation. Interference is like being like a poser. There's too many posers in the church. There's too many posers running the church. God is angry. He's angry at you. You better either resign from the pulpit, because many of you that were not called to the pulpit have infested the churches with corruption and crime. And you have forced your congregation to have more than one master. And there is a prevalent nature going on in many of the mega churches where they pay community members of that church, and then they are coordinated with the authorities, and they do what's called a neighborhood watch. I'm on that list. I'm literally so harmless, it's alarming in a physical sense. Do I have the ability to shock people with my expression at times? Maybe, but I believe that that's Jesus, because that's not something I was doing as often as I have the last 7 or so years, when I saw that me, my husband, and my son appeared to have some sort of prize on our head. There was a cost, or there was a fee being paid to harm. That would be called interference and meddling on a murderous level. So now we will quickly look at Matthew 23:8 and Luke 6:37, if I can do that quickly. Don't even ask. Let's just stay on track, Lord, please. 23:8, and be not ye called rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren. I just read this the other day on another book. We're out of here. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be ye called masters, for one is your master, even, and he is Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Humbled, lifted up. So it's the opposite of what you think. I said the world was turned upside down. Yeah, it is, because the evil is being praised and the humble are being sacrificed. But technically, God's ways are the reverse too. But what I'm saying is, it's so messed up that we got the singer that's saying evil's good, but God's ways are not our ways. His ways are the best ways, but you wouldn't know it right now, because you got churches running people around, having other people stalked and murdered, and they think they're doing the will of the Lord. So you got one evil master, the government, telling the second deceptive con artist at the church that their authority is them, and then that authority is telling the church that their authority is Israel, this mess, all these murders, that we're supposed to support this. So you got your one man. So now you're heaping, and you've heaped yourself too in hell, because now you got the master. You're saying don't even not even tempt the government, but not even hold the government accountable who's running your supposed leader of your church. And there are leaders. God has leaders. What I'm trying to say is there's a whole slew of them that need to go to prison with the master they've been following for over 2 decades or more. The federal government telling them what they can and say in the church to make everyone comfortable and focus on money. So you got the one master. Well, Satan's their master, so we got him above them. Then we got the masters of the government, the puppeteers just making complete Mannheim. And then they're enforcing the church. Most of them are way too big. The overhead is disgusting, by the way. Disturbingly disgusting. When I mean overhead, I mean electric and stuff. And then you go in some of them now, and they got like this little group up front, and you're in some sort of coliseum or something. All these churches are big enough for is just to gather up Satan's children, I think, and they can all just... Why don't you guys all just go in your mega churches and leave the rest of us alone? Because you don't know what you're doing. And it's super sad. And you bow down to the government. The exact opposite of what we were supposed to do. When the government is running upon Satan's rules, you don't keep following it and then taking your children into it too. Well, this is not at all how I was wanting it to go. So the network of Jesus' kingdom is extremely important, but no, we can't all be teachers. And honestly, some of the greatest teachers they're so excited to be a teacher. Our minister, he was super geeked, I think. Some are. I think that they come from a better bloodline, a little more obedient bloodline of the Lord. But maybe some of us, our position was just a little more not so pretty. And what I'm trying to say is there are planters. There are planters of many things for the Lord. Some of them get so mutilated in the process that nobody even knows what they were doing. However, what is unseen, or what the Lord is creating, in silence in some instances, or even he can take the havoc of what we've been through and make it into something glorious. But we don't want to force that thing too often, because, well, it's just not a good idea coming from experience. But see, in my instance, they were going to get me one way or another. They'd already done framing events and stuff. But because I had my weakness of the plug, keeping the plug in the jug, they always knew when I took the plug out, because there was the meddlers and the interferers, because they are protecting some extremely heinous crimes against wee ones in this county and in this state. It is extreme time that you make your decision on who your master is now. And for some of you, it might be even honest to just say, I haven't really been following Jesus, and I don't really know if I want to. So guess what? Stop terrorizing those that are. And go find something else to do. Because for a lot of us, it's pretty disturbing how many people want to burn in hell. Matthew, okay, so we did that one. Matthew 23:8. Just let me make sure I got, okay. And Luke 6:37. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Rules of kingdom life. But love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest, for he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Judge not, and ye shall not be judged. Condemn not, and ye shall not be condemned. Forgive, and ye shall be forgiven. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye met withal, it shall be measured to you again. Okay, I am not in the part of the planting of stuff to love you to the Lord greatly. I tried to do some tender preachings. I spent the majority of all of my childhood into most of my early adulthood loving the most evil acting people and forgiving things that could be forgiven more safely from a distance. In my lifetime, I have had 3 individuals that said that they loved me misuse a gun. And I'm not going to go any farther. And it involved me. It wasn't shot, but I have had some really concerning things. Those same people, some that raised me, one that I married, went and created their own narrative to satisfy their evil. And I use these examples because they're extremely important. If I had reported all the people that threatened me, I'd still be reporting them. That's a distraction. That's interference. And I need to close this up right now because this could go on a long time. Those of us that are a little more firm in our approach know that something is really wrong, and it is extreme time that you get over to the right team. And this could be just America, okay? Because it's looking pretty rough. So what we're going to do is we're going to say this is silly, and we're going to wrap this up. This thing that just happened, that was to take me and John fully down. They've been chipping away at us a long time. Long. I don't know if we got a 6 months of peace. Because my son felt safe for the last time. He shared some things. And apparently at that time too, around 2008, God didn't think it was important for me to know how big and broad and ugly it was. We ended up on the road. I warned the courts. I said, I follow one God. You're not forcing my son. That was the deal. I got almost killed at the hospital. Me and my son got horribly poisoned with a poison oak thing from the rental with these 2 perverts, and they were tied into some of this trafficking bullshit. And if people knew what was hid in this town, you would run. Now, I wasn't allowed to run. And I found out a long, long, long time ago. But those words and those stories were to be shut up tight. Very quiet. Now, I don't know if anyone noticed, but Jesus isn't messing around. So, do whatever you want to do next. But this is a distraction. And you almost took our lives again, or took my life. Or you were going to do an illegal breaking in, because he was ready at the front door hours ahead. We were gone 8 to 10 hours for the demons to get the fence in. They know exactly what they were doing. It was hours, days planned in advance. We asked for a warrant the first time. We asked for a warrant the next, no warrant. We asked again, and I allowed myself to be taken up. But I honestly think that I thought maybe you could just take me to the station without so much force. Then you continued to poison me at the jail with something, and I don't know what you gave me. You guys lied. I asked you what it was, and I then I tried to not put anything other than the gross water from the faucet. And you did a bunch of other illegal stuff to me in there. And it's all inhumane. It's illegal, and I have no way to prove it. And that's how you have done this with me since the beginning of my life. And you are protecting sickos, and you burn in hell for this. And I don't know what else to say. If you can't stop doing what you're doing and expose yourself and heal this town, this is going to be the first places God takes down. So I don't know what to tell you, but you can kill me, but there is enough people that are probably too scared to let me know they love me, who have information, and they know, and they had their own experiences, and this stuff is out there. And that one stupid little book of mine, which I wish I could rewrite, I got into enough hands for that information to be known. And it isn't even about that. It's that hopefully I broke the ground for whoever else can maybe come through and shine with the Lord. And you know what? I think that that's all I ever really wanted. And I do know, while raising my son, when I saw the meddling and interference being raised in a house of Iscariots to take me down morning, noon, and night, and to extend their network, is that if there was one thing that the Lord gave me when my son was young, is I was like, Lord, for the love of God, after all this interference, do not let me interfere with this boy's journey with you. I do not want to be responsible for taking him away from where you want him to go. Don't ever let me do what they did to me. I do not want that hellfire heaped on my head. And you know what? If I fucked up the rest, that's fine. But I tell you what, when God said it's time for him to go, and he ain't going, and it's getting weird, and we already gave him many options, we gave him many possibilities, we gave him many opportunities to decide what he wanted to do, it was time to go. My walk, my mission with the Lord has been impeded and interfered with enough. And you people are sick. You are sick to do this. And the thing is, I'm not alone. And I've had enough. And I'm done. And if you want to twist those words, you go ahead. Because it comes straight from my Father in heaven. Now I'm going to read off a few more verses, and I'm not going to go into it. John 13:13. Ye call me Master and Lord. There is one Master on this universe. And if you don't get that right now, you will be... You're right on Satan's golden platter. They're feasting on you. If you don't get over to Jesus now, the real one. Now, I love you. I love you. I love you. And I just want you to get to Jesus. And it's time that you stop him hawing around. And whatever style you have with Jesus is your style, by the way. Don't let anyone impede on what you're going to do with the Lord. And now is not the time to be concerned if you offend someone with Jesus. Because I tell you what, the last thing you're going to want is when you stand with your Lord and he says, so you were worried about being offended for mentioning me and my saving grace and where I want to live with them forever in heaven with you and them. Okay, we want to be told, or just know in our heart, that we did what we thought we needed to do to help whatever we thought we needed to help with the Lord. Now, how it lands or how well we eloquently deliver it at times may not be exactly how even we want to do it, just like today. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to still say, I love you. And maybe we just need to at least go see the daffodils together. Because I think they're probably shriveled up from the weather, up and down and all around. Or maybe this will shut down before I can get us out the door. And I'm a little bit like a hunchback of Notre Dame today, so just bear with me. And it'll go away. It's probably not, but that's where we are, okay? So there's some of us that probably are, well, I don't know, but a lot of us are getting checked out, I guess you could say. So I would say in the group I'm in, we're getting off, okay? So some of us are just like, we're going to just get this out quick enough and, you know. I think it's funny how they stacked up on the map. So thanks, Lord, for that interesting lesson. We got Popo here. Hippie. And I think Poe and Hip have been urinating on the olive trees, so I just shouldn't have put them there. Oh. Oh, I don't know. We'll go along the fence when the flowers come out over there. Tried to look this up again. It does a slight weeping, and it gets kind of like a heart. We'll check it in this when it starts to bloom. And did I show the rocks? Okay. This is for when it rains, and see how this area is. We just wanted to make it so it's just more of an area to walk through and move stuff. I didn't want the dirt there by the garage. And the first year we were here, I did the rocks, poured cement, sealed this off because water was rolling in this side. And so hopefully we can get some sun.